Hello, student. Today we will discuss chapter 3 of book 1 of History of Class 12 NCRT. The name of the chapter is Kinship, Caste and Class. Actually, in this chapter, we have to study about the society or the social life between 6th century BC to 6th century CE. Let us start with the first topic, the critical edition of Mahabharata, which reflect the ancient social history also. Actually, in 1919, a team of a lot of Sanskrit scholars under the leadership of Dr. V.S. Sukthankar started to compile a critical edition of Mahabharata. You know, the famous serial Mahabharata produced by B.R. Chopra, having the basic source of this critical edition of Mahabharata. It took almost 47 years to complete this edition, and it was compiled in several volumes of different sources over the 13,000 pages. And two things became apparent in this compilation. One, from north to south, from east to west, all the Sanskrit version have common elements. At the same time, there were regional variations. If we see the history related with the South Indian languages, or the East, or the Western languages, or the Northern Indian languages, we find there are certain regional variations. One thing is apparent also, that there was an interaction between the popular traditions, or in sociological term, the great tradition, as well as the little tradition. Now the next topic is kinship, marriages, and the many rules and the varied practices. Let us discuss certain words like family. What is family? Actually, it refers to a group of people who shared a food, other resources, and live together, perform rituals together under the single roof. Now, second, kinfolk. Who are the kinfolk? It related with the a large network of relatives called kinfolk. Now, the term kinship. Again, it is a refers to a set of relationship formed either by one by blood, or second by marriages. Hmm. These two are the basis who form a larger network of relationship that is called kinship. Now the next term, patrilineal. Patrilineal, if we trace the descent from the father's side, that is called patrilineal. And if, for example, there is an exception, like Prabhavati Gupta. She was the daughter of Vikramaditya to uh, is also known as Chandragupta II, who, who, who married off to a Vakatak prince, and she traced the history or descent from her husband, which is generally not happened. Now, matrilineal. If descent refers from the mother side, it is called matrilineal. Actually, from 5th century BCE, the Sanskrit scholars or the Brahmins, they started writing the codes of behavior in a form of Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras. And one of the famous one, which is written around 2nd century uh, BC to 2nd century CE, that was called Manu Smriti. It is the famous code of conduct for the social behavior. Another two things, actually, if we talked about the marriages, actually, this Dharmashastra and Dharmasutra wrote about the 8 forms of marriages. The first 4 form of marriages is the good one, and the last 4 form of marriages was not considered good from Brahmanical point of view. And these not good forms are categorized as Gandharva Vivah, Rakshas Vivah, Pishach Vivah, etc. There are 2 more terms. Polygamy. If a man married to many women, that is called polygamy. And polyandry. If a woman married to more than one person, that is called polyandry. And the famous example you are aware in the Mahabharata is Draupadi. Now, rules for the marriages. What are the rules for the marriages? Actually, we know uh, sons were important for continuity of the patrilineage, and daughters were viewed as uh, rather in different way. They were treated as a pariah dhan who had to marry off to some other family. They cannot claim over the resources of their fathers. At the same time, uh, it's the duty of the parents to marry off her at a right time to a right person, and that is called Kanyadan. So now what is Kanyadan? Kanyadan is a kind of gift of daughter to the right person through a proper rituals of marriage. That is called uh, Kanyadan. And the in the marriage, 2 things was very important. One is exogamy, means one has to marry outside the kin group, relatives group, but at the same time it should within the caste, that is called endogamy. So exogamy as well as endogamy was practiced. Now the next topic is the Gotra of the woman. What is Gotra? And what were the rules associated with the Gotra? Actually, Gotra was named after a Vedic seer. So many Gotra like Bhardwaj, Kashyap, Gautam, etc. Sandilya also. So the people belong to same Gotra were called descendant from one Vedic seer. There are 2 rules. One rule is a woman were expected to give up her gotra once she get married off to the another family. Means her gotra will be considered as husband's gotra. And the second, the member of same gotra cannot marry. Why? Because they were descended from the same family. And we know the marriage within the family was considered as a taboo. Now the next topic, whether mothers were important. If we see the example of some rulers, especially like Satvahana, we know the word sometimes read Gautami Putra Shatkarni, Gautami Putra Pulamai. It reflects that they give some due respect to their mother, but at the same time, we know their these Satvahanas was not matrilineal, rather it was a patrilineal. Now we talked about social differences. Uh, we know as per the Varna rule, there were 4 Varnas: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And as they have different functions, they have different occupation prescribed by uh, Dharma Shastra and Dharma Sutras. So, as per Dharma Sutra and Dharma Shastra, Brahman was supposed to studies and teach the Vedas, perform sacrifices, get sacrifices done, give and receive gifts. Now Kshatriya, they were to engage in the warfare, protect people, administer justice, uh, study the Vedas, get sacrifice performed, and make gifts. At the same time, now Vaishyas, they also had to involve in production work, study the Vedas, get sacrifice, and make gifts. But the fourth group, Shudras, they were assigned only one occupation, and that occupation was the servitude towards all the three higher varnas. Now, the question is, what were the strategies adopted by Brahmins to enforce these laws? First, they said that this Varna is a divine origin, which can be evident from hymns mentioned in the Rig Veda, Purushukta hymn, that says that Brahmins originated from the mouth of that supreme man, primeval man, the Kshatriya from the shoulder, the Vaishya from belly and thigh, and the Shudra from feet. So now, second, a strategy, they advise the king to ensure these norms to be get followed in their respective kingdoms. And the third one, they attempted to persuade the people that their status were determined by birth. So whosoever caste you took the birth, you remain the part of that very caste. Now the non-Kshatriya kings. Uh, in general, from Brahminical point of view, the Kshatriya were supposed to be the king, but we have several evidences of non-Kshatriya kings. For example, if we look towards the history of Magad, the first famous non-Kshatriya king was the Nanda dynasty. Padmananda, Dhanananda, etc. were the famous one. The second, the Mauryans. Mauryans were also not belong to Brahman or Kshatriya. They belong to other origins. According to Brahminical text, it was supposed to be from lower origin. If we talked about the Sung and Brahmins, Sung and Kanva, they were the Brahman kings. Beside them, if we look toward the other part of the Indian subcontinent, there were Saka rulers who came to India from Central Asia. They settled down in Western Asia, and one of the famous king was Rudradaman. At the same time, the another king who was supposed to be settled down in the Deccan were the Satavahanas, the Brahman. They were claimed as the Brahmins. Actually, the political power was effectively open to anyone. If anyone who able to muster the support and resource, they become the king. So it was rarely dependent on the birth or the as a Kshatriyas. Now come to the jatis and social mobilities. In this section you will find as the like Varna, Jati, it was also based on the birth, and as per Varna there were four Varnas, but if you find the Jatis, their numbers are numerous. So Jatis, what is Jati? Which means a group of people who shared a common occupation or profession, were sometime organized into Sreni or guilds we have discussed earlier. Here is an example of Mandsaur inscription. Mandsaur inscription from Madhya Pradesh. It records about the migration of a silk weavers from Gujarat Lata to Mandsaur. At that time it was called, this Mandsaur was called as Daspura. Uh, it states how difficult was the journey from Gujarat to uh, Mandsaur along with their children and womenfolk. Because these people, they heard about the greatness, the generosity of the local kings. That is why they moved towards this place. This inscription also provide a fascinating glimpse of complex social processes and provide insight into the nature of the then existing guilds or shrenis. Now, talked about the next topic, beyond the four varnas. Actually, we know there were certain population whose social practices were not influenced by the Brahminical ideas. When we when they figure in Sanskrit text, like Nishad, who were described as a odd man, uncivilized, or even animal-like. The Nishad were the forest dwellers. One famous example which is mentioned in the Mahabharata is Eklavya, who was supposed to belong to this class. was denied the art of archery by the famous Brahman guru Dronachar. Nonetheless, there was also sharing of ideas and beliefs between the people of great tradition and little tradition,